Let me tell you of the days of high adventure.
Hi, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Eric.
And this is 6 Degrees of Schwarzenegger, the podcast where we take a long, hard look back at some of our favorite action movies from the era of Arnold.
Schwarzenegger is the icon of the genre, and we're taking a deep dive into some of these 80s and 90s cult action movies and breaking them all the way down.
Yes.
All right.
Welcome back, Eric.
Yes.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. It's been too long.
Yeah. This is we're going to call this our football season like kickoff special series.
I think it's perfect.
Yeah.
Honestly, when we chose to do this one, I completely, because I'm not much of a sports guy.
Yeah.
But the timing couldn't be better.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about The Last Boy Scout.
Indeed.
Another Bruce Willis actioner from like his heyday.
Yeah. Peak of Bruce Willis at this point.
Yeah. This had to be probably as famous as he ever was. But yeah, this was 1991. It was after Die Hard 2.
Yeah.
Came out right on the heels of Hudson Hawk.
Oh, that was a misstep.
I feel like I did see that, but I haven't seen that in 30 years.
I loved it when I was a kid.
Okay.
And then I rewatched it as an adult, and obviously it still has a soft spot in my heart, but I'm like, yeah, given where Bruce Willis was in his career at this time, I don't know why he chose to do this movie, because it was silly, it was a little absurd. There was a little bit of magical realism in it.
Yeah.
He wasn't playing a tough as nail, down on his luck cop or similar character. And I think anybody going into this movie expecting Bruce Willis of that era was going to be horribly disappointed.
I watched just the trailer for it earlier today before you came over, and I was just like, this looks terrible.
It was not as bad as it looked.
He was like a cat burglar that gets caught up in some sort of a global conspiracy or something.
Involving Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, it was just a wacky movie, totally absurd. But that's not what we're here to talk about today.
No, thankfully not.
Yes,
We're here to talk about The Last Boy Scout, which has like just heavy hitter after heavy hitter from action genre attached.
It was literally the culmination of just about almost all of the biggest hitters, right?
Yeah.
Like this was this super band of action movies of the 90s.
And I don't know, we'll I guess we'll figure it out as we go through, but I like the movie. I think it was good. I remember not loving it when I was first watching it, but that's probably because I was holding it up to like, this isn't as good as Die Hard. This isn't as good as Lethal Weapon.
Right.
And it's like, but then you compare it to just the other movies that we've done on the podcast, and you're like, wow, this one's fucking good. This was a good one.
It actually, it holds up. I mean, I hadn't seen this in quite a while.
Yeah.
And we watched it again. I'm like, I'm enjoying this.
Yeah.
Like, legitimately. Not
It's like got a clever plot and good writing and like good characters. Yeah. So I'll try to run us through some of the people involved. It was directed by Tony Scott, who had been huge from doing Top Gun and Days of Thunder and Beverly Hills Cop 2 before this came out. I'm a Tony Scott guy. I miss him. I know he took his own life a while back. He jumped off a bridge.
I did not know that.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah,
no,
so he's no longer with us, so rest in peace to Tony Scott.
Rest in peace, yeah.
He did some other awesome movies after this. Crimson Tide. I love that shit. An Enemy of the State. Do you remember that? That really like Will Smith?
With Will Smith. That really put Will Smith on the map as an action star.
It was like he had done Bad Boys, and then he had done... What did he? I mean,
was Enemy of the State before Independence Day?
I think it was.
Yeah.
It might have been right after, and you're like, oh, he can do like more than just like the PG-13, like kid friendly shit.
Yeah.
And he did an awesome movie with Denzel Washington and Chris Pine called Unstoppable on the runaway train.
Oh, that's right.
Did you see that?
I never saw it.
That movie is fucking great.
Really?
It is great.
Speaking of watching trailers and going, that does not seem like a movie for me.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it is
interesting.
Great. I'll swear by Unstoppable is spectacular.
Very interesting.
Yeah, Tony Scott's got a great eye for just like kinetic sort of action.
Oh yeah, 100%. He's a phenomenal action director. And it's a shame that it's a shame that he,
Yeah, he must have been a troubled soul.
Yeah, well, I mean, who isn't anymore in Hollywood, right?
This is true. This is true.
But yeah, written by Shane Black, though.
The legendary Shane Black.
The legend, the myth, the legend, the man.
He had written Lethal Weapon as like a young man. He was like 22 or 23 or something and wrote Lethal Weapon. And I think he wrote this sequel for Lethal Weapon, but they took it away from him because he insisted that Riggs die at the end.
Oh, that's right. I remember that.
And they were like, we're not killing Riggs. So we're going to take your story and we're going to have him not die at the end.
Right.
And he's like, well, then take my name off it. And just, the hubris of being young, dumb, and full of cum.
Yeah, well, I mean, he wrote Predator. He wrote...
he wrote the humor bits, I think, for Predator.
Oh, he was only doing touch-ups?
He did touch-ups on the set. He acted in Predator.
Yeah, he was in Predator.
Yeah, I think they brought him on to add some humor.
Yeah.
Because he's those jokes, the little Shane Black one-liners, you just know them when you hear them.
Yeah.
This movie's full of them, obviously.
Oh, no, this one, like, there's a joke a minute sometimes.
Yeah, and they're good.
There are a lot of them are really on point.
We got like a 75 to 90% hit rate on the jokes.
Yeah.
I love it. But, what else? He did rewrites on Last Action Hero.
Yeah.
He ended up being the credited screenwriter, I think, on it, even though it was not his idea.
Yeah.
He did Long Kiss Goodnight, which I think
is a classic.
And I think that he set the new record for like most money for a screenplay, I think, for Long Kiss Goodnight.
Oh,
But he had set the record for this one too, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, over $1 million. I think it was $1.25 million for the screenplay on this
I
one.
got 1.75.
75, that's what it was. Yeah, so it was 1.75, right.
Right, he had taken because what you were telling me, Karolko offered him even more money.
Yeah.
And he wanted to work with Joel Silver, though.
Yeah, he did. So he took the lesser amount of money, and then I'm sure we'll discover as we work our way through this movie, that I guess was a mistake.
Well, he ended up getting like also an executive producer credit. Maybe that was like in lieu of taking a cut on the script. But yeah, it was like the most money ever paid for a spec script or something at that time.
Which was beaten less than 3 months later, apparently.
Oh, well.
Esther House, I remember her first name, he sold a script to Karolko for $3 million for Basic Instinct.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a good script, I guess.
It was, yeah.
Sure, why not? But this apparently, Shane Black said it was like his first crack, I guess we would say now, at like doing a hard-boiled detective noir sort of thing. I feel like he's done it a couple more times now.
Yeah. Well, with like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Good Guys.
But I think there were quotes on like the DVD I have of this movie is like a very primitive DVD where the bonus features are like just a little like slideshow of information things. But it had some quotes from Shane Black where it said that he felt like the world of professional sports was like a good sort of melting pot of like glamour and greed and heroes and corruption. So that's the backdrop for the movie.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of validity to that. And, in the vein of a lot of really classic noir sort of pot boilers, the conspiracy always seems so minor, but it has such long-reaching consequences. I mean, obviously, Chinatown is about water distribution in Los Angeles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy. There's no grand conspiracy, but it's just this really practical but mega impactful thing.
Yeah.
And corruption in Major League Sports is a real thing,
Anyone out there listening who hasn't ever seen Chinatown, go watch Chinatown. That is such a fucking great movie.
Yeah.
And an example that I come up with a lot on this podcast where the mystery can be a straightforward mystery where you know who the bad guy is from the first act. You don't need twists and turns necessarily to tell a good story.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can just like let us know right off the bat, this is our bad guy. And like I was thinking about Beverly Hills Cop. It's like the first time you meet dude, the bad guy, he's the bad guy.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And it can still be like a great mystery and like a great, cop story or whatever.
Well, I mean, so much of it is less about what the mystery is and how our hero or anti-hero or what have you is going to get themselves out of the trouble that they get themselves into.
Exactly.
Usually by accident, right? And that almost becomes the mystery.
Yeah, I'm into it. But there was a quote from Shane Black, which I loved, where he described the movie as being about these two lost souls looking for redemption. And I'm like, oh, that's like, then that made me think of Fury Road.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh yeah, it's the same. Like, I mean, I think that's just a good starting point for a plot. Like two people who are lost souls who work together and find redemption together.
I know the lost soul seeking redemption trope is a classic, and it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's an absolute great one. But yeah, it was produced by Joel Silver and Michael Levy.
Joel Silver, of course, is like the action movie god.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had got his start working with Walter Hill, who did Red Heat.
Right.
He was like an associate producer or assistant producer on The Warriors. Then he did 48 Hours, and he did Commando and Predator and the sequels, and Lethal Weapon and the sequels, and Die Hard and the sequels. Dude was like, he did Roadhouse, Action Jackson, Demolition Man, The Matrix, and like on and on and on. The dude was like just huge.
Yeah.
Huge action movie. He was like the action movie producer. Him and probably like Bruckheimer. And Don Simpson were like the guys.
Yeah, another rest in peace. Poor Don.
Yeah, absolutely. Music by Michael Kamen, who was like the action movie score guy.
Yeah.
He had done Lethal Weapon and Die Hard scores, and Roadhouse and Action Jackson and Highlander. Apparently, he did not want to do this movie.
Did it as a favor to Bruce Willis, apparently.
Yeah. I guess he probably owes these guys. You know, him and Silver both had like thrown a lot of work here over the years, you know. And then I jotted down a note that the movie was edited by Stuart Baird, who was like the edit doctor.
Oh, really?
They brought in because I think the first cut of the movie was really the studio thought it was a disaster. So they brought him in. They also had brought him in to re-edit Tango and Cash.
Yeah, that's right.
I think this came out a little bit better. But yeah, Stuart Baird had edited Lethal Weapon and the sequels and Die Hard 2, and he still edits. He did Casino Royale and Skyfall.
Oh, wow. So he's still around.
Like, yeah, great eye for action, apparently.
Yeah, no, really strong eye for action.
And I think we'll get into it, later on, maybe at the end, but there were massive clashes of egos going on the set.
We'll definitely get to that at different points, I'm sure.
Yeah, so it apparently nearly like led to them just pulling the plug on the whole movie, or the movie just going completely off the rails.
And yet somehow it came together.
I can't complain. If I had gone to see this, I feel like I would have been like, that was funny and good action.
Yeah.
And it feels like some sort of a hybrid of Die Hard and Lethal Weapon.
I agree, which it kind of was, because apparently most of the movie is taken from parts of different abandoned drafts of both Lethal Weapon 2 and Die Hard 2.
I did read where a lot of the action set pieces and a lot of the jokes and stuff were things that Shane Black had come up with in other drafts of things.
So it's a bit of a Frankenstein movie, but honestly, it came out way better than it had any right to be. This is a good one.
The cast is Bruce Willis, and the lead is Joe Hallenbeck. We know Bruce Willis's resume.
Oh, that's
strong,
storied.
It's Damon Wayans playing Jimmy Dix, who was started out doing a stand-up comedian. I remember him well in Beverly Hills Cop as like the dude selling the bananas and apples and oranges and the thing. Like, you go and take a couple bananas. Like he's like very effeminate, whatever.
I remember Damon Wayans mostly from In Living Color.
Yeah.
So that's where when I saw
really
him in this movie,
that blew him up was In Living Color, and then he's gone on to do a lot of mediocre TV and movies, and then like all edgy comedians from the 90s. Now he's like playing the dad in sitcoms,
And he famously was on a very short-lived Lethal Weapon TV series stint playing Murtaugh, actually.
It's crazy how he's now he's playing the straight man now.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
It's got Halle Berry in it, a very young Halle Berry as Corey, which this was this movie and Jungle Fever she put out the same year, and that's sort of what put her on the scene.
Yeah.
Chelsea Field as Sarah Hallenbeck.
I didn't recognize her at all.
She was the woman from Eternia or whatever in the Masters of the Universe movie.
Really?
The one who came with Dolph Lundgren from the other world.
Yeah. I would not have ever realized that. It does not look anything like her in my mind.
She played a tiny role as a flight attendant in Commando.
Okay.
And she also played a character named Virginia Slim in the movie Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man.
I know that movie.
I remember that movie, but I haven't seen that one since it was on high rotation on TBS.
Yep.
That was movies for guys who like movies era.
I remember that era.
I kind of remember it being good.
Yeah, my memories of it was that was fun.
It was like a Mickey Rourke and Don Johnson.
Yeah, I know, but it was sort of this is better than I was expecting it to be.
I need to see it again because it sounds like it should be awesome.
Yeah,
I like
agree.
the name. The title sounds fun.
Yeah.
A young actress named Danielle Harris played Darian Hallenbeck, the daughter. I don't really know her from anything.
No, I looked her up and I didn't recognize her from anything.
She had been in Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead.
I'm like, that's where I was remembering.
I don't think I ever really watched that one.
When we were watching it, I'm like, I recognize her from somewhere, and she plays the younger sister
being babysat.
Yeah, being babysat.
Okay,
and that is where I reckon. And she plays basically the same exact character.
She's kind of shitty.
She's just a really shitty, wisecracking kid. Yeah.
She was in Free Willy as well, which I don't recall.
No, I don't. Yeah, that I wouldn't remember. Yeah,
she had been. She had her heyday, and I think she still works, but her biggest roles were as
in the
a teenager.
90s. Yeah.
The guy, I'm going to try to pronounce his name right, Taylor Negron.
This works for me.
As Milo. Very familiar looking, but this is definitely the biggest role he's ever had.
He seems like he was always just sort of a background thug or just sort of
and did tons of TV roles.
Oh,
like
really?
100 TV credits. Like one episode of this, one episode of that.
So he's a working actor.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Noble Willingham plays Shelley Marcone. Same story, a lot of small roles.
Mm-hmm.
He played the ranch owner in City Slickers. That's, I'm like, oh yeah, he's definitely got the cowboy vibe.
Yeah.
And Chelsea Ross playing Senator Baynard.
Yeah, that's right.
That dude always plays a jackass.
Always a villain. Like never a good guy.
He was the shitty dad in Hoosiers who wanted to fire Gene Hackman, and then he was the asshole pitcher in Major League, the one who, hey bartender, Joe Boone needs a refill. That guy has such a punchable face.
Oh my god! I think he realized that probably when he was in high school, constantly getting punched. And
lean into it.
Just leaned into it. Yeah,
I can make a career out of this. He's great at it.
Yeah,
he's really
he's
great.
even better than
guy.
What's his face who played Peck in Ghostbusters.
Oh yeah, that guy too. He's just so good at playing that character.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So we'll get into the plot.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go. All right, part one.
Yeah,
take us away
with the Geffen Pictures animation, which is a blast from the past.
I know, man. You don't see that much anymore.
No, they're long gone.
Yeah,
although they're back on Beetlejuice.
Oh, I guess they didn't have a choice, right?
Well, I think it was, or was it like a nostalgia homage?
It might have been
to put it back on the front because Geffen became DreamWorks, right?
Yes, I believe so.
He and Amblin and all, they merged all together to do DreamWorks.
Yep, exactly. It was Spielberg and Katzenberg and Geffen. Right, those are the three, right? Yeah. And that's what did exactly.
But it was a nice blast from the past. And then we got a prolonged opening credits, like in the style of the old Monday Night Football open, like the are you ready for some football?
Yeah, Hank Williams Jr.,
like a music video, essentially. Except this song was Friday Night's a Great Night for Football.
Not as catchy, but
being performed by Bill Medley. I don't know. I thought this song was kind of low-key awesome.
Yeah.
I was loving it.
Yeah.
The dude's got an amazing voice.
No, he's got a great voice.
I was like, who is this guy? He's one of the Righteous Brothers.
Okay. All right. Yeah. I buy that.
And I think this was a song that was written specifically for this movie.
I believe it was. It wasn't. Yeah, I'm almost certain that it was because this does a lot of major, the NFL games. Are they on Friday? I mean,
no,
you're right,
never.
Exactly. So
that's why I was like, unless there was something else going on, So I think they're not necessarily supposed to be the NFL.
Right.
In this, they probably didn't want to get sued.
No, they and all the teams are what was it? The LA Stallions, which is not a team.
No, not a team at all.
But I do love that they integrate the opening credits into this promotional song.
Yeah.
So it's this weird diegetic intro song, but this strange juxtaposition with the credits of the opening movie, which I thought was interesting.
Because it would flash up produced by, and it would be but it would look had that video look in a 4:3 aspect ratio.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's I'm here for this.
Yeah.
It's definitely I need to look at the screenplay and see if it was written that way or if that was someone making a creative choice in post production.
Yeah, it could have been. It absolutely could have been.
Yeah, I loved that.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah.
But so that plays out for several minutes. There's a lot of football snippets in it, which apparently was from the 1990 Holiday Bowl between BYU and Texas A&M, which they use, I think, throughout the movie maybe to do, when they have the aerial shots of the crowded stadium and stuff like that.
That was what I was reading. Apparently all the shots of the football game were from...
I think except maybe the rainy,
game.
The on the field, the camera's on the field. That obviously was.
Yeah, the B-roll of the football game. Yeah. That was all.
Yeah.
That one game, yeah.
So then it's a smash cut to the football game being played in pouring rain.
Which I guess that sets this is sometime in the winter of.
Well, this is in Cleveland.
Oh, this is in Cleveland. Okay,
the Open is in Cleveland.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
The game is headed to halftime. It's the Cleveland Cats versus the Los Angeles Stallions. Yeah, the Cleveland Cats is god awful.
That's a name. No one should. There's a reason why the Cleveland Cats don't exist anymore.
And then there's a marching band performing in the pouring rain, which is like you do not get marching bands at pro games.
No.
But that rain was like as heavy, I think, as rain can get.
Yeah.
Like that was insane.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like, how rain doesn't show up on movies very well and they have to overcompensate, right? I mean,
really
that wasn't
backlight it. Yeah.
And there's like they never like wait for it to rain. So I've got to imagine that they had those rain machines.
I'm sure because this stuff was filmed. This was the bit they filmed it in the Coliseum.
Okay.
So I think all the fans in the background with umbrellas are probably bone dry.
Yeah.
And they're just pouring it on the field, whatever in the foreground.
Yeah.
But yeah, then we cut to the locker room where the LA player Billy Cole is getting a phone call.
Mm-hmm.
Billy Cole was played by Billy Blanks, who was like the Taibo guy.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember him.
A whole bunch of like really shitty karate
really
movies.
low quality karate movies. And I watched all of them when I was a kid.
He was in one called King of the Kickboxers that I remember watching. He had a tiny role in Lionheart, the Van Damme flick.
I also love that he's like just taking a call in the middle of a game at halftime.
In what world would you be getting a phone call in the locker room and they're like, yeah, sure, I'll put him on.
Yeah, right,
I'll put the you want to talk to the star running back? Okay, whatever. Yeah. The coach is like chewing the team out. And he's like, let's get out of here a winner. I hate Cleveland, which that line made me laugh out loud. That was the first one that made me really laugh. I bet that's the exact type of real shit that gets said. And like, I fucking hate Cleveland. Let's win this game and get the fuck out of here. So Billy Cole, though, he looks rattled as he takes the phone call from someone named Milo. And Milo tells Billy Cole, he calls him William, which is like an affectation that Milo has throughout the movie, that there's a lot of money riding on this game, and he better start scoring some touchdowns. Then he tells him, do whatever it takes, understood, or else you're history.
Ominous words, if ever there were any.
Which presumably the guy's talking about gambling, like that there's money, like gambling money. But as we see the plot of the movie unfold, I'm not sure that actually makes any sense.
No, I don't. It doesn't. I think they just needed a moment to drive someone to a breaking point. And so they just make vague overtures to something bad happening.
Unless Milo's got his own side gambling going on. Because otherwise the scheme of the bad guys in the movie doesn't involve making money via illegal gambling.
No, it doesn't. The actual conspiracy is gambling adjacent, but it's not about illegal
but it's not about
gambling.
like we're betting on games.
Right, exactly.
Anyway, we'll get to all that.
Yeah, we don't get a cart ahead of the horse here.
I started thinking maybe it's like about we just need you to make the game more exciting.
Yeah,
like
and
get
that's
out
what
there
I'm
and start scoring some
thinking.
touchdowns because whatever ratings are down and all that.
Right, because they do talk about how the ratings are down. The owner does at some point, and so I imagine that has something to do with it. But it's not clear. But also, I was just sort of like, this is just a moment. We need to heighten the tension.
We just need a moment.
Right, we just need a moment.
So then, real life football announcers Vern Lundquist and Dick Butkus had cameos as like the fictitious announcers of the game or whatever.
Yeah.
So then the announcers introduce us to the LA Stallions owner, Shelly Marcone.
Yeah.
And down on the field, there's Lynn Swan interviewing Marcone, another cameo, Lynn Swan. This dude's like a fucking piece of shit cowboy.
Oh yeah, like just
like
classic
got the cowboy hat on, and he had like the plastic little condom on the hat, and I'm like, where do you get a cowboy hat shaped cover for your? They must sell them.
Yeah, I'm sure that they sell them, but even if they didn't, he's rich enough from his oil money,
whatever.
He can just make them bespoke.
The dude is definitely like Jerry Jones inspired, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, there's
like,
no question.
Just sort of vaguely sort of like scummy, shitty, sleazy billionaire. So Lynn Swan says, the attendance and TV ratings are down and suggests that football is on the decline. And he says, are we witnessing the death of professional football? And Marcone's like, no, we're witnessing the death of good journalism. Like typical billionaire shit. Like this storyline though was not accurate of 1990 like NFL. No. I had to look it up. I was like, was NFL like in a downturn? No, they were like as big as they'd ever been and have only gotten bigger ever since. So I guess it's just movie plot.
It's just a movie plot.
Not accurate.
Right. And this was back in the day where you could get away with complete nonsense like that. I think if you try to do that today, you'd either have to have some kind of strong justification for why we're deviating from reality that much, or people would just go like, this is garbage. Football is huge. I don't believe this.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, back in the locker room, we see Billy Cole. He's popping some unidentified prescription pills or whatever. I do think that this is very accurate. Like, players just popping pills, like, to play through pain and whatever else.
I believe that.
So Marcone goes on praising Billy Cole as he's walking back out on the field, looking totally, like, psyched out. He had crazy eyes. Marcone is saying, Billy Cole's having the game of his life out there. And it's like, what? They've got only 10 points in the game. Like, no, he couldn't possibly be. And then somebody says, like, there's no heroes left or something like that. And that very similar line was used in Lethal Weapon.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
So later on in the game, Cleveland fumbles the ball away and Los Angeles gets it back. And the announcers are saying that Los Angeles needs a touchdown to win the game. Billy Cole pulls on his helmet, is walking on the field with the biggest shoulder pads you've ever seen in your life. Like, they were enormous. Again, he looked totally out of it. Like, Billy Blanks is like, he was doing good, intense, crazy man face. So the quarterback throws to Billy Cole, who breaks some tackles. He's running down the field. Defenders got him lined up to tackle him. But then Billy Cole produces a pistol from his waistband and shoots the would-be tackler right in the head. That was like some shocking shit.
I mean, I would imagine if I had seen that in theaters, I would have just been like, what just happened?
If that was not like already given away in advertising or something like that, I would have been like, holy shit, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And it starts a run in this movie of like graphic headshots.
There's some massive
like,
violence.
There's like tons of direct headshots, like squib work on people's foreheads and shit like that in this movie throughout. But so, he shoots that dude, shoots some other defenders as he runs the ball into the end zone. Now, police and coaches and other people are swarming onto the field. Billy Cole drops down to one knee and he takes his helmet off and he says, "Ain't life a bitch?" and shoots himself in the head. And the original draft of the screenplay was he was going to say, "I'm going to Disneyland," and shoots himself in the head. And that's got to be another like, we're not getting sued by Disney over this shit. We're going to have to change that. But another graphic headshot, like his head explodes.
I know.
Crazy. So Marcone gives a look on his face of like, oh, this is going to be bad for business.
Right.
Sort of thing.
But there's no sympathy or anything like that. He's just looking at dollars and cents. Yeah.
Dude's a piece of shit. So cut to then sunny Los Angeles. There was like the Nakatomi Tower was in the background. I love that. Now, there's this billboard of the scantily clad woman, which something about the billboard was like hella familiar. I don't know if it's been in other things or if it just is one of the things from this movie that stuck with me. I don't know.
It didn't look familiar to me, at least.
But next to this billboard, we got Joe Hallenbeck. He's asleep in his shitty old car. I looked it up. It was a 1971 Buick Riviera. So some kids are passing by, and they decide to play a prank on him by dropping like this dead squirrel into his car.
Which how convenient that there was a dead squirrel right there.
Yeah. I mean, that fucker looked real, though.
It did look like a
I'm like, is this a real dead squirrel or a taxidermy dead squirrel?
Props to the props department.
I wanted really badly for the one little Latin kid to be Benny the Jet Rodriguez from The Sandlot, but it wasn't. So I was bummed out by that. I was like, is that Benny the Jet? I looked him up. No, sadly not. But Joe doesn't even like move a muscle. So they decide, oh man, take his watch. So one of the kids goes to grab the watch and Joe snaps awake and grabs that kid by the wrist and shoves a gun in his face. The kid's screaming like a little girl. Now Joe eventually lets go of the kid. And only then, like, realizes there's a dead squirrel on me. Like, he picks it up and sort of stares at it and then, like, processes what it is he's looking at, you know? Chucked it out the window. I love that moment. I like he's just clearly hungover.
Yeah.
Through the whole movie, basically.
Oh, yeah, basically. I mean, it's similar to Die Hard with a Vengeance, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I feel like he was doing McClane from Die Hard with a Vengeance. Yeah. So then Joe walks into his office, which is like Joe Hallenbeck Investigates or whatever the fuck. It's your stereotypical private eye office. With like smoky light coming in through the blinds and everything like that. So Joe's cracking open that first beer of the morning, like immediately.
Everybody loves that first beer of the morning. Yeah.
The answering machine picks up the phone. It's a call from his buddy Mike, who says he's got a job for Joe. Joe picks up the phone quickly, and then Mike is like, "Oh, I thought you were out of town," which is a clever bit of writing from like what's about to happen coming up. The actor playing Mike is this guy Bruce McGill, who's like another just super familiar character actor. But always fascinating to tell people he played D-Day on Animal House, like the motorcycle riding. Like
he did.
And he's so thin and tall seeming in that movie.
Yeah.
So that was Bruce McGill, I think, in his much younger days.
Wow.
D-Day.
Still rocking that same mustache. That mustache goes with him wherever he goes.
My dad's rocking a mustache he's had since before I was born.
Yeah,
I think.
my father too. Actually, he's let it go into a full beard now, but for most of my life, he was rocking a mustache.
Mike says Joe sounds rough, and Joe says, "I think I fucked a squirrel to death," which is fucking hilarious.
Is a great
That's
line.
a good Shane Black joke.
Yeah.
But Mike says, I got a job for you if you want it. Basically, the job is to look after this stripper who's got someone harassing her. Pays $500. Mike says the girl rates a 3 on my finger scale. It means I'd cut off 3 of my fingers if God would let me fuck her.
Which is just okay.
That phrasing killed me though. Like that it's an act of God. You know what I mean? It's like it's not up to me. It's not up to her.
It's up
just
to
that God let it happen.
Right.
More classic Shane Black. So Joe says, I was planning to spend my day smoking cigarettes, but okay.
Yeah.
So Joe says he'll take the job. He'll meet Mike in Mike's office later on for details. So Joe gets in his car, looks at himself in the rearview mirror, and berates himself.
Oof, man, and it's. I mean, like, this is. This isn't a spoiler at this point because this is perfect time to talk about it. Shane Black was not writing for 2 years.
Yeah,
and it was partially because of a really nasty breakup that he went through. And you were telling me that he modeled Joe after sort of how dark his life got during that period.
Yeah, he said like he basically put all of his hurt and his pathos or whatever into this character to get it out of his system.
Yeah.
Sort of. So basically the character of Joe is, I think, Shane Black was going around just on a chain smoking bender for 2 years or whatever.
I mean, if you got the money.
I guess so.
But I mean, like the shit that he's saying to himself in the rearview mirror is just like, yeah, okay, you're not making this up. You were literally just
I know you can feel
transcribing stuff that you've said to yourself. I mean, it was dark.
So he says, nobody likes you. Everybody hates you. You're going to lose.
Yeah, it's like, oof.
And he drives off. Elsewhere, we see Jimmy Dix. He's watching this gorgeous naked woman sleeping on a bed, and he seems sort of like mad at himself. I noticed the girl had an engagement ring on, which is strange.
Which is,
I don't know if he's like, did he fuck someone's fiance?
I think that's what it's implying.
I feel like it's not an accident. Like, accidentally we didn't have her take off her ring on her left hand. It's like,
yeah. Script supervisor would have been very specific about that.
Yeah. So Jimmy goes to the bathroom, dumps out a bunch of pills on the counter. He's got the number 13 on the back of his head, which in this shot specifically, it really looks like a tattoo.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it was drawn on, and throughout it sort of seems like it becomes more and more like it's hair.
Yeah.
Not a tattoo.
Yeah.
I feel like tattoo would have just been easier for everyone involved.
I agree.
Like you just slap a little little rub-on tattoo every day when you're filming or whatever, but whatever.
Whatever. It gets. I mean, also in the 90s, I feel like tattoos were far more taboo.
Yeah,
right?
maybe especially like tattoos on your head.
Yeah, and so maybe it was just like, oh, tattoo's too far. It's a bridge too far for the 90s.
Now it's like that's one back there that would be hidden under hair if you grew your hair out.
Yeah,
is
like,
very
no one would care.
Common.
Yeah, especially for an athlete, no one would even bat an eye.
For sure. But so Jimmy then he emerges outside this Los Angeles Stallions house party, like this beautiful mansion.
Yeah,
and I got to think that this must be a bit of time removed from Billy Cole killing himself. Like I don't feel like this is like 2 days later we're all partying.
Yeah,
or anything like that.
I agree.
So some amount of time I imagine has passed. But there's this big dude who's like sexually assaulting this woman in the hot tub, which is tough to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy tells the guy to leave the girl alone. Big guy is telling Jimmy, like, what are you even doing here? This is a team party. You were kicked out of the league, whatever. So get some exposition in there. Jimmy then grabs a football that's lying around and rifles it right into this dude's face. It's like full fucking Marsha Brady, like Brady Bunch shit. Then Jimmy helps the girl out of the hot tub. He tells the guy, I still got the best arm in the league. Don't forget it or whatever. He says the best arm in the National League, which is like, I feel like they're going out of their way to not say NFL or National Football League.
I feel like, I mean, is the NFL particularly litigious? Like, were they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So especially on things that portray the league negatively.
Okay.
So if it's like, drug abuse and rampant, like, sexual assault
the last
and things
thing
like
that
that.
they want is them exposing the truth of
they
football
sue.
players.
They like to sue a lot.
So it doesn't surprise me then that they're definitely going out of their way to avoid the NFL.
Right, except for one moment that we'll get to later, which is kind of funny to me. But now elsewhere, Joe is arriving back at his house. seems to be a very swanky neighborhood.
It does. It seems very, very upper middle class.
I got more on this later. It turned out like this is like, I found the location was like fucking Pacific Palisades. It's like rich.
Yeah.
But his car's like a shitbox.
Yeah,
and it's like, what's going on around here?
Yeah.
I imagine a scenario, we haven't learned about his backstory yet, but I imagine a scenario in which he might have a really good pension that he's getting in addition to being a private eye or whatever.
That makes sense.
So he lets himself in the house, catches his wife, Sarah, by surprise. She says she thought he was still in Las Vegas. And he says, well, I got back last night, slept at the office. He goes in the bedroom to freshen up. He says, hello to this stuffed puppet that's on there, Furry Tom, the most consequential puppet.
It is an important character
that will ever be featured on this podcast for sure. It's full like Tony Scott mode because this house is so smoky and hazy.
Oh my God.
Like curtains wafting in the breeze, whatever, as well as like the sex scene in Top
Gun. Yeah.
So Sarah asks him how much money did he lose, and he reluctantly tells her $50. Now on the bedside table, there's this crude drawing of Satan Claus. It was like an evil Santa Claus type figure holding a decapitated head. And Sarah says their daughter, Darian, drew that in school for a holiday project. So now, of course, they want a parent-teacher conference or whatever.
Yeah.
Did that drawing seem like 13-year-old drawing to you?
No.
I thought it looked like 8-year-old.
My niece is 13 and can draw like beautiful art. Right?
I used to love drawing when I was a kid, and I know like this looked like crayon type drawing.
So I think that Darian has got more problems beyond Satan Claus. Someone needs to get her some art lessons.
Yes. Now, we joked around on when we were doing Jingle All the Way.
Yeah.
The little boy in that movie, which is supposed to be like a 6 or 7-year-old, he had drawn this family drawing that would look like it was like a professional cartoonist had drawn it. And we were like, this is not 6-year-old level drawing.
Why are Hollywood people incapable? It
shouldn't be that hard.
I know. I guess none of them have kids or something.
Maybe.
I don't know.
I don't
or at
know.
least they're having nannies raise their children.
And this one, I'll say, like, maybe also there's the fact that Darian doesn't give a shit. So maybe it was just like she just drew it sloppy like that.
That's definitely possible.
I don't know. But Joe asks, where is Darian? And Sarah says she slept over at a friend's. Sarah says, the boys at school are bullying her, and Joe says she's going to be screwing them by the time she's 14, which is a fucked up thing to say about your own child.
It's pretty dark.
Jesus. So Sarah tells him to watch his mouth. And Joe blames Sarah, says, you're letting her wear too much makeup. All right, so this is clearly a very dysfunctional household.
Really?
Right? Now, I do, though, like the detail of him cleaning his gun.
Mm-hmm.
First, because he needs to have it handy for what's coming up in a moment. But second of all, like, you never see dudes cleaning their gun and doing the boring shit in movies.
Yeah.
This is a thing that they do.
Well,
right?
I do love, this is a terrible movie, but Stop or My Mom Will Shoot.
Oh, shit. That, I've never seen it.
Oh, it's so bad. But there's a scene where, what is her name from Golden Girls? She played Stallone's mom.
Estelle Getty.
She cleans his gun by like rinsing it in bleach and all these other caustic chemicals.
That's funny. Husband and wife, they continue to bicker as Joe walks over to the bathroom where he notices that the toilet seat is up. He looks around suspiciously. He comes back out. He's like looking under the bed. Like, this is really good writing because I think when we were watching it, we both picked up instantly on what's going on. But I feel like but it's without any
there's no
talking
dialogue,
yet.
right? It's a classic example of show don't tell.
Yeah. So Joe asks Sarah, matter-of-factly, who's the guy hiding in the closet? And she pretends like she doesn't know what he's talking about. But he reminds her, you must have forgot I'm a detective, right? He says, like, the bathroom is steamy, like someone was in the shower, but your hair's dry. And the toilet seat's up, even though I've been gone for days. It should have been the nice shot of him, like, wiping steam off the mirror, like, when he was checking himself out. Like, I feel like that was a missed thing.
That could have been a good opportunity.
But Joe says, there's no one under the bed, so I'm guessing, you must have stuck him in the closet when you heard my key hit the lock a day early, which I feel like it's just something about that writing stuck in my head like forever when you heard my key hit the lock. I like that.
It's like it is sort of a Norrish way of saying
like
unlocking
Shane Black,
the door.
like a different way to say a thing. So she says, basically, you're crazy. She's trying to gaslight him, right? You're crazy. I'll open the closet door to prove it if you really insist. And he's like, no, leave the door closed. But on the count of 3, I'm shooting through this door. So he starts counting. And just before 3, this half-dressed guy pops out, and it's Joe's friend Mike from the phone call, which is like, wait, what? So he just was on the phone with Joe, realizes he's back in town, and was like, I better hop in the shower. Not like, I'm going to get the fuck out of here. That was strange to me. I feel like that's a plot hole. Yeah. There ain't no way he's like sticking around for a shower. Yeah, that's true.
He's like, oh shit, he's back.
He's in town already.
I'm out.
I got to go.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. But it is a great scene. A very memorable scene from the movie. One of like the two or three most memorable scenes, I think, in the movie.
And it really establishes, I mean, everything you need to know about the family, everything you need to know about who Joe is, what he's capable of, like what his situation is.
He is a good detective, we see. He's also burned out, unhappy home life, all that shit.
Yeah.
So Mike tells Joe, hey, put the gun down, don't do anything crazy. Joe wants to know how Sarah ranks on his finger scale, which is pretty fucked up. And then Mike is like, hey, look, it just happened. Joe's response is incredible.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, sure, I know, it just happened. Could have happened to anybody. It was an accident, right? You tripped, slipped on the floor, and accidentally stuck your dick in my wife. Like, whoops. Oops. That's so good. Bruce Willis, like, just kills this scene. Like, he's so good at playing this character.
Yeah, and you forget that he started his career as a stand-up comic, right?
So it's awesome.
He's got this practiced sense of comedy and timing, you know?
Yeah, no, he's of the action guys. I feel like he and Mel Gibson are legitimately, like, funny guys.
Yeah.
You know, Schwarzenegger can do funny if he's got good material.
Right.
Stallone can never do funny.
No.
He just doesn't have it in him.
Although I will say Oscar was a great movie.
No, you liked Oscar?
I loved Oscar.
It came out the same year.
I love that movie. Still, I will stand by it.
Okay.
It's a hill I'll die on.
Yeah.
I love those. It was a throwback to the screwball comedy of the 40s and the 50s. Right. And I love those types of old school screwball comedy. Okay. So it's like, it was right where I live. So.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. Yeah, I've never in a movie. I'm trying to think. Sometimes in Rocky, he would be sort of like, unintentionally funny. He'd say something stupid and it was kind of funny. But Stallone's problem is he never wants to look silly.
Right. That is, yeah.
So he wants to be funny, but be cool about it.
And for me, I think
you got to be Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And like, I have no shame.
Right.
I'll do anything for a laugh. Not like, I'll say, no, we got to make the line make me sound cool, though.
Right.
Hey, you got, we always talk about, how would a human being deliver this line? If I was a regular, normal human, how would I say this?
I mean, we know that I'm not. I'm sliced
clearly
low,
I'm not, but, meanwhile, back in the movie.
Right.
Sarah is begging Joe to put the gun away. Joe makes like he's going to shoot somebody, but instead he shoots this framed wedding photo that they had.
Which we did a freeze frame, and I think you're right, but we'll come back to that.
I'm just impressed that they did a very nice like wedding photo for a photograph that was seen like less than half a second on screen. It was like 2 or 3 frames.
Right, exactly.
And then it explodes. Yeah, it's crazy that they like... There was a lot of attention to detail in the production, and it shows, as opposed to a lot of shitty movies we've talked about where it's like they could not have given less of a shit.
The Room 303, 302.
Yeah, how do you make mistakes like this?
It's going to burn me for the rest of my life.
Check out the Red Heat podcast.
Yeah, if you need to fill in the blanks on that one.
If you need to rage for a while. No. But later on, Joe is walking Mike out of the house. He asks him if he wants it in the head or the gut. And Mike reluctantly says gut, and Joe punches him in the gut as hard as he can. Which, would anyone ever say head?
No.
Is there any scenario in which, punch me in the face?
Yeah, no. That's
no
not
chance,
happening.
Right?
Not a chance.
So Mike is doubled over in pain. Joe asks him, like, if he's got the info on that job that he mentioned on the phone. Mike is surprised he still wants the job, but, Joe says $500, right? So he hands Joe this card advertising Corey, the stripper. It's Halle Berry. Mike walks over to his Mustang convertible, cranks up the ignition, and the car explodes in spectacular fashion.
It's a great 90s explosion.
It was like the most epic car explosion I think I've ever seen. The car went like 20 feet up in the air. It was like
it was a good one.
The frame was like bent in half. I mean, it was awesome.
The Demolitions crew or the Pyrotechnics crew had a great time setting that
If they really shot that shit out on the street in Pacific Palisades, that's wild. That
amazing.
Rattled some neighbors' windows, man. But so... Yeah, Sarah comes running out, worried that it was Joe who got killed, and finds, though, that he was thrown clear by the blast. Yeah. So I guess we see that she actually is, like, concerned for his safety, I think.
Yeah, I think
we'll
so.
explore this more as the movie goes.
We
right?
definitely will, because she'll come back. But I mean, I think, this is just sort of like happens a lot. I've had friends who this has happened to,
right,
where, their significant others have cheated on them, not because they don't love their partner, but because they did something that angered them, or they're not paying enough attention. And it's almost like a revenge ploy to a certain extent.
Like
or
a reality check.
Yeah, or to force a conflict or force a conversation. And that could be what's going on here.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Joe has survived the explosion that was meant to kill Mike. That's our hook for the movie.
Yep.
We'll start unpacking the mystery here in the next episode.
In part 2 of The Last Boy Scout.
Yeah, Last Boy Scout. Great title, too.
It is. It's a great title.
Yeah. So, thanks everyone for listening.
And we'll see you next time. Yeah.
We'll be back.